Hey YouTube, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm talking about something that I never thought I would be able to talk about. I'm still in shock. It's been almost a week now, but I'm still in shock that it happened. But I basically bought a house here in Milan in an unconventional way, but I bought a house here in Milan. There are still a few steps before it becomes official, like my name is signed on an act, but supposedly these next few steps are supposed to be the easier parts. And in the next few months, I'm gonna officially become a homeowner in Milan. A lot of people asked me if I could come on and share my experience and share what all the steps were and just, share this avenue to my generation where we find ourselves living either in rural areas that have very few job opportunities, growth opportunities, life opportunities, or in big cities where more than like 50%, 60%, 70% of our income is just going towards putting a roof over our heads. So in certain situations, it does make sense to buy a house. I analyzed my situation and just for, the location where I'm at, the point that interest rates are, the trend of the home price market. For all of these reasons, it made sense for me to buy if I could buy, and the only way that I could actually afford to buy was removing myself from the free market and going into the auction market, and oh my god, it worked. In this video, I'm gonna be telling you guys how I bought a house at auction here in Milan, Italy, and I'm doing this video in English because I want to be I don't want to make any mistakes in my explanation, and I want to be fast and concise, and I'm just able to do it better in my own language. So how did I even get to this point? Well, I first went to the banks. I went to a few different banks. I went to Intesa Sanpaolo, I went to UBI Bank, and I also went to Deutsche Bank, and I also went to my bank, which is ING, to see what were my options for financing, because as you guys know from the How I Saved $40,000 video, I only had that to spend, and so I obviously needed financing to be able to buy a house. And after the market crash of 2008, the housing crisis of 2008, it is justamente, rightfully, a lot more difficult to access home financing, which kind of sucks, but we all understand why. I went into all these banks and I presented them with my documents, which were my different bank accounts, how much cash I had, my work contract, my partita IVA, my tax returns of the last few years. And after analyzing all these documents and my financial situation, they all basically told me that I would have no problem accessing a 20%, an 80% loan, so I would have to put down 20% and they would give me the rest of the 80% to finance the property. Most of the banks gave me interest rates of about like 1% to 2%, 1.5%. That's a huge deal because that's not the situation everywhere else. Like I was looking at buying property in Jamaica. Their interest rates are like 9%. I was looking at buying property in America. Also, their interest rates are not 9%, but they're also not 0%. So it's Europe that has extremely low interest rates, and so you can get away. I mean, once you do the math, you end up paying $500, $600, $700 a month for your mortgage, or lots of times even less. When I was looking for financing to have a budget of 200K, so they would give me, I think it was 160, and I'd have to pay 40, something like that. They told me with all of the factors concerned, I would have to pay between 500 and 700 euros a month in a mortgage, which is sustainable, which is fine. I mean, that's still less than we're paying now to live in a house at the edge of Milan with no elevator, no door person, no air conditioning, and they won't let us put any air conditioning in, and we're paying more than we would have to pay for a mortgage. So this was one reason why I really wanted to buy a house in Italy. Well, I really wanted to buy a house in Milan right now. There are lots of people that say, oh, well, buying a house to live in is not an investment. It's just an extra cost. Actually, in this specific condition, it would be cutting our costs significantly. And so therefore, even if it won't immediately become an investment because I'm gonna be living in it for the first few years, it is still going to financially benefit us because our costs are gonna be lower and we're gonna be able to save more. First thing I did was go to the banks, see if they would finance me and for how much. With that in mind, I started to look at houses. At first, I was looking on the free market, and I realized that there are a lot of hidden fees in buying a home, and this is anywhere. Like you've heard of super high closing costs in America, same thing in Italy. So say you find a house for $200K, you get 80% of it financed, so that's $160,000, and you have to pay $40,000 up front. The normal person thinks that all they need is the down payment. When you think of buying a house, you only think of the down payment, and you don't actually consider the other fees, which are substantial, because you have to think that you're probably going to have to pay 3% for the agency. So that's 3% of the value of the home is going to go in an agency fee. Then you also have to pay the notary to do like all the contractual stuff. Plus you have to pay somebody to go there and like evaluate the house, which is part of the mortgage process. Plus you have to pay for insurance, and plus you have to pay like mortgage costs. So in the end, you could end up on a $200,000 home having like $10,000 to $15,000 in closing fees to pay additionally. And that's a lot of money. So I realized very quickly that if I wasn't gonna have help from my family, my budget was extremely low. My budget was not 40,000 euros, my budget was $40,000, which is closer to like 36,000 euros. 36,000 for everything. The down payment, the closing fees, and also obviously I still have to live and take into account that I have a partita IVA, so I have taxes to pay and fees to pay every trimester. So all of these things made me say, all right, let me look at the auction market, because Enrico's brother had actually just bought his house at auction. He got insanely lucky. Some friends of his told him that there was going to be an auction for a house near their parents' house, and he went. Nobody else showed up, and so he ended up walking out with a 2-story, 2-bathroom, 2-bedroom family home for 80,000 euros. He had renovated the entire house for like 30K, and so in the end, 80 plus another 30, that's like what, 110,000 euros, and he got a brand new house because, you know, he renewed it. So in the end, it was brand new. Albeit this was in Marche, so of course the situation is different. I knew that I wasn't probably gonna get anything for 80K in Milan, but I did see the auction as a feasible thing to get the house for really cheaply. And of course, going into foreclosure auctions or buying a house at auction, you go in with the mindset of, you know, you're gonna have to do some work. You know that the house is not gonna be in the best condition, and so you calculate in that you're gonna have to do work. That work is also financeable. When you ask for the mortgage, you can also ask for a piece of the mortgage to be renovation. And so they'll give you an extra like 20% of what they loan you to renovate the house. And it just gets calculated into your monthly mortgage. I had already had a positive example, and Enrico's mom told me that maybe I should try looking that way to see if, you know, I could find something that was actually my budget and that I could actually do myself. So I went out, I Googled it, and I found a couple agencies in Milan. So the way that it went was I had to pay 200 euros down to basically like sign up into their agency's care. And then what they would do is I told them what I was looking for. I told them that I was looking for a 2-room apartment. I told them that I was looking in a certain area of Milan. I told them that my budget was this, and so they would send me periodically all of the houses that they found in that range, and I would say which ones I was interested in, and then once I was interested in them, they would set up appointments for me to go see them. That's one misconception with foreclosure homes. People always say, yeah, but if you buy a house at auction, you're not going to be able to see it, and sometimes this is true. Enrico's brother wasn't able to see the house before he bought it, but with this agency in Milan, I saw every house that I was interested in before actually going forward. Found the house that I like, was able to do the like background stuff, so getting the check for the offer, signing all the papers, putting on the Marco da Bollo, all the bureaucratic stuff to like be able to participate in the auction, and then auction day approaches. Now, because of this whole coronavirus thing, actually the night before the auction was canceled. And so I was like, oh, that's a bummer. I don't know when I'm gonna be able to, we don't know when this auction is gonna happen. Y'all have like 6,000 euros from me as an offer. And I don't know what's gonna happen. Another thing that I wanted to say, because I just mentioned the 6,000 euro offer, when you buy a house at auction, it always starts at a price. And these prices in Milan, from what I saw, were like from as low as 40,000 euros to 100,000, 120,000. I mean, I put my budget at 100,000, and so I didn't see any above 100,000, but there was a lot under 100,000. The first one that I was looking at was starting at 40,000, and this second one that I was looking at was starting at 60,000. That's the minimum offer that you can make, and you have to pay 10% of your offer. So I offered initially 6,100, be a little bit more than the minimum. What usually happens is the first time that they offer the house, say the house is worth 120K, they might offer it for the first time at 80,000, and then nobody will show up at the auction, like what happened with Enrico's brother. So they send it to the auction a second time and they lower it even lower. So at that time, the minimum offer will be 60,000 and more people will come. Since Milan is atypical and there's a lot of people participating in the Asta market, they rarely do the first round. They'll rarely start it at 80. They'll just go straight to 60. Like this was the first time that the house that I won was at auction and it was at 60. It was already discounted quite a bit. Make your offer, canceled the auction, and then the next day at like 11 in the morning, they put the auction back on. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's a sign. It's a sign. I might actually win this because this is weird. There's coronavirus. Maybe everybody will stay home. I'll be the only one to show up and I'll get this house at 60,000 euros. And so I rushed to get to the courthouse and I'm like, oh my gosh, this could be a good day. Okay, you guys, here I am in front of the Tribunale di Milano, the court of Milan, and it can end up being a good day or it can end up being a terrible day. Let's see. Speaking into existence that it's gonna be a good day. Go in, everybody showed up, everybody that was supposed to show up. There was 9 of us. You go into the room. I unfortunately couldn't bring my agent with me because of the coronavirus. They didn't want a bunch of people in the same room, so I had to go in by myself. But my agent had already talked through a whole strategy with me. We set my maximum limit, what I could actually maximum pay for, and a strategy of how to get there but not get there too fast. Go in, they check that everybody is there, they take everybody's presence, and then it starts. It was a surreal situation because it was exactly like on TV. Like I had to raise my hand, say my name, and say out the number that I was bidding, and then somebody else would bid, and then somebody else would bid. Strangely enough, when you win, they actually send you a whole transcript of the auction, and so you see who everybody is, where they're coming from. Actually, a lot of information, and then it shows like who bid what and when, and que ansia, but I did exactly what my agent said, and after 90,000, it was really just me and this one guy going back and forth, like the minimum rialzo, the minimum bids, and the minimum bids for this was 1,500. So at a certain point, he said 19,500, and then I said Olatumbi 121,000. And then after offers, you have 60 seconds to make a counter offer, or else, it gets rewarded. And so there was a moment of silence, and then they were just like 3, 2, 1, aggiudicato, and I won, and I still can't believe it. I won. The house itself, its real value is supposed to be around 134K, and I got it for 121K. And I can actually pay for it myself. So right now what happens next is, originally I could have went to any bank and applied for a mortgage, but I just didn't want to deal with anything anymore. So I'm doing that with this agency as well. They have a part that takes care of the mortgage part. And so I gave her all of my paperwork, and in theory, that's going out this week. And then it takes a couple weeks for them to approve or deny your mortgage. And then you pay the rest. And as soon as you pay the rest, the judge signs over the house to you and it's yours. That was my experience in looking for a house at auction and how it actually went. I hope I cleared up some misconceptions about how auctions work, at least here in Italy, and why they could be a really interesting option to look at, especially for young people who find themselves priced out of the homeowner market, despite the fact that I'm working, I'm making good money, I've saved a lot, and I was still completely priced out of my city's home market. So this is an option that you can look at. I hope that you guys found this video informational and helpful. Feel free to comment your thoughts down below. What do you think? Have you ever participated in an auction? What are your experiences with an auction? Do you think it usually goes like this, or did I get insanely lucky? As always, remember to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you guys in my next one.